Today is Thursday, December 31st, 2015. Hello, and welcome to the Astrology of Prince William. Prince William is the first son of Princess Diana and Prince Charles. He's a really important guy, and a lot of people are very curious about him. So I thought it would be a nice idea to do a quick reading on him, talk about his natal aspects and upcoming transits in 2016 and 17, which I think are going to be significant years for him. So, on the screen we have a birth chart, the natal chart of Prince William, born the 21st of June, 1982, at 8:03 p.m. The most dominant aspect in his chart is Neptune conjunct ascendant in Sagittarius. The Sagittarius rising gives him a very expansive personality, but Neptune dissolves the boundaries of whatever it touches. So he has no personal boundaries, or his personality, I should say, has no boundaries. Everyone gets to him and he touches everyone else. He has the capacity to expand his personal boundary to encompass all of humanity, because Neptune is the collective. So he can probably have a very unrealistic opinion of himself and of the rest of the world. In fact, with this configuration, it's possible for a person to live their whole life in a rather delusional state. Neptune has a very spiritual quality, and Neptune on the ascendant gives him a sense of destiny, and he sees himself as being a very spiritual person. Possibly he even has a savior complex. I start off with that because it overwhelms all other aspects in his chart. Everything goes through the ascendant in a chart, and when you've got a planet so close to the ascendant, it really colors everything in the chart. So that's an important thing to consider. His sense of destiny really overwhelms everything else. Like I said, he's got a rather powerful chart. Pluto conjunct Jupiter. Well, the word I've got here is inheritance, because typically that's what happens with Pluto and Jupiter together so close. And he is certainly no exception, inheriting one of the greatest fortunes on planet Earth. Also notice it trines his moon and sun here in Cancer. So he's a very expansive guy. He's very lucky with women, and that inheritance, particularly with that Jupiter exactly trining his sun, certainly suits him very well, and he likes it very much. Notice this Pluto-Jupiter conjunction also sextiles Neptune and the ascendant. This gives him the power to speak to the masses, and basically he can get whatever he wants merely by asking. This is a very powerful combination. He's got Mercury in the 6th house in Gemini. Well, Mercury rules Gemini and the 6th house, so it's a really strong position. It's well positioned there, and well aspected as well. Opposition to Uranus, trine to Saturn, and trine to Mars as well, gives him a strong analytical mind, intelligent and detail-oriented. So his thinking process with the trine to Saturn slows it down, but it does it in a way that makes him very intelligent and very careful with what he says. The Mars trining Mercury gives him a lot of confidence, and the opposition to Uranus gives him a lot of intelligence. This is probably the best aspected planet in his chart. Okay, now I wanted to talk about this Sun conjunct Moon on the descendant. This makes him a very sensitive person. His emotions are going to show through his face, or have what people call a wet face. He's also going to be a bit insecure about what other people say about him. Give him a very spiritual side to himself. And the issue here is with the very debilitated Sun. Very debilitated because the Sun is debilitated in Libra, or the 7th house. So it's a very weak position to be in. In addition, the sign of Cancer is not a strong position for the Sun. The sun is associated with the 5th house and the sign of Leo. So the 4th house and Cancer is the 12th step in the 12-step process that begins with Leo. So that means Cancer feels like Pisces from the perspective of the sun, because it's the last house in the process. In addition to that, he's got Sun conjuncting his moon. So his sun is very debilitated. He also has Sun opposition Neptune. Well, here his identity is opposite this sense of destiny that he has. He is not who the world thinks he is. His emotions are hidden, and he doesn't want to feel the needs of others because it hurts his feelings. Notice it's in the 7th house. So all of this Neptunian energy flows into his moon, his sun, right here in the 7th house. So he's very sensitive and isolated from a lot of other people, even though it may not seem that way, because this very debilitating location of the sun is also squaring his Mars in the 10th house. Overall, this makes for the formation of a very strong identity crisis. With the sun and moon squaring Mars in the 10th, his obligations disagree with his warm, diplomatic, and sensitive nature. He does not get along with or respect his father or the patriarch. His parents probably did not agree on how he should be raised, with the Mars squaring the moon. Arguments with his father or patriarch, and I put the word patriarch because I think maybe I should put matriarch, because really it's the queen. But the point is, she is a really strong authority figure in his life, probably even more so than his father. So I wanted to add that in there. With the sun conjuncting his moon, he wants to be a family man, and he desires to be free of traditional obligations because it squares Mars in the 10th. 10th house is tradition. He identifies with his mother more than he does with his father. And overall, this identity crisis sets the stage for a pretty strong showdown that I'll be talking about with regards to this yod. One more thing I wanted to mention here. Mars, being up here at the top of the chart in the 10th house, he really wants to express his ego in the public sphere. However, when he's forced to express himself publicly, it comes out in an awkward manner because he's not allowed to express his feelings, and all of that warmth and generosity does not come through when he's expressing himself publicly. So his public role does not agree with his private life. Like I say, this is a pretty strong identity crisis that he's got going on. Now I want to talk about something that's really kind of interesting, a very powerful aspect he's got. Okay, Prince William has got what's called a yod, this configuration here that has 3 points. One of them is Pluto and Jupiter. The other one is Neptune and the Ascendant. And the third point is Venus and Chiron. So it's double at each end of the point. So he's got a double yod, you could say. A yod, spelled Y-O-D, is often referred to as a finger of God or finger of destiny. His life has a destiny. A very specific purpose occurs when you've got a yod in your chart. And he's got a double yod, so it's doubly strong. The yod forces you or compels you on a certain path in life. It forces you to accomplish certain things. The universe really pushes you in a way that you cannot deny when you've got this configuration in your chart. This is particularly so because the planets at the bottom end of the chart, which do all of the pushing, are outer planets, Pluto and Neptune. This is very strong at the base of the yod. The top of the yod, where all of the energy is going, is Venus and Chiron. And notice the very close conjunction of Venus and Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer, and Venus is the feminine, obviously. I believe that this conjunction manifests as his mother's murder. And with the fact that it is located at the top of the yod, I believe that this kid, this prince I should say, is destined to resolve his mother's murder. This is a really powerful thing, and I haven't talked about a lot of the stuff in this chart. I've just kind of briefly gone over things because I just really want to get to what is the most important subject. His conflict with his father and the identity crisis, and then the compulsion to resolve the issue with his mother. This is very powerful. It's his destiny, and it's something he's not going to be able to avoid. This kid truly has an incredible life. Notice he's got midheaven leaning all the way over into the 11th house. That's quite rare. Usually, the midheaven, which represents what you respect the most, falls in the 9th or 10th house. Or if you're using the Placidus house system, it's at the cusp of the 9th and the 10th. But when you see it leaning all the way over here into the 11th, what he respects most is his fellow man, more so than knowledge, 9th house, and tradition, 10th house. Now let's take a look at some of these guys' transits. Okay, so I've switched over to a double wheel now, and on the outer wheel we have Prince William, and the inner wheel, today's transits, which is December the 31st, 2015. So let's talk about some of the stuff he's had recently. Notice Uranus at 16 degrees of Aries. Recently finished opposing his Saturn at 15 degrees of Libra. And he's currently about to get his last pass of Pluto squaring Saturn. Pluto currently at 15 degrees of Capricorn. So a lot of folks listening to this channel have been following the Uranus square Pluto aspect that occurred last year. It was rather intense. A lot of things happened. And with him, it really affected his Saturn, which is in the 10th house. And that really, for him, is all of the authority structures in his life. It's more than just his father. It's the queen and the whole monarchy thing that he's involved in. With Pluto squaring, well, actually with Uranus opposing his Saturn, he broke away from that traditional structure. And at this point, I think he's now running his own life to a much greater degree than he was before, now that the Uranus opposition Saturn has completed. But he's still working on this Pluto squaring Saturn. It's ongoing. He's going to have 3 more passes this year. One coming up very soon in mid-January, then in August, and then again, finally, in November of 2016. This is a power struggle between him and the authority in his life, which is his father and the queen. At this time, he is severing his relationship with both of them. I'd like to call your attention that the United States of America has Saturn right around this degree, and the Pluto square Saturn transit they've been having has had very significant severing occurring as a result. And I believe the same kind of power struggle that the U.S. has been going through is the same kind of thing that this kid's been going through. Sorry, I keep calling him a kid because he's younger than I am. And I remember when he was born. But I only mean it in a positive way. I realize he's a really powerful person. So anyway, this Pluto squaring with Saturn is going to be continuing to sever his relationship with his father and the queen. Neptune squaring Mercury. Notice Neptune is currently at 7 degrees of Pisces. He's got Mercury at 8 degrees of Gemini. So the Neptune square Mercury transit, it's another one that's been ongoing for a little while, and he's got another pass happening in February. The last pass on February the 16th. Well, it's probably one of the most confusing transits that a person can have, Neptune square Mercury. It's a time when you give up control of your thinking process to somebody else. The confusion seems to end, but the mind, after the transit's over, but the mind-altering effects of this transit can last for years if it's not addressed properly. It can be like a really bad acid trip. I say this from some experience, because I have a good amount of experience with this particular aspect. And I can tell you that it doesn't matter how well aspected or well placed your Mercury is. Neptune squaring your Mercury is an extremely confusing time. And if you can ride it out and not make any really serious decisions about your life direction, then you're probably going to do okay. But if you make some really intense decisions about your life at this time, it can have an effect upon you that can last for years in a negative way. So that's a pretty a big caution out there, because that's the kind of transit this is. He's getting his last pass next month, or I should say a month and a half from now, and that probably will be the end of the confusing time if he doesn't make any really big decisions at this time. He should really forego making any decisions about his life until after this transit has well passed. Also happening around the same time in February, Neptune quincunx Mars. This is another ongoing transit. Neptune at 7 degrees of Pisces, Mars at 9 degrees of Libra. He's got one more pass exactly in February. However, in November, it comes 2 minutes shy while it's going direct. So he might actually get this again. I'm not sure how powerful that'll be, but it's pretty close. The reading on this is that he becomes very unsure of his role in life, because it's got Mars in the 10th. So he feels compelled to uncover things that have humiliated him or bruised his ego in the past. Hidden, uncomfortable truths arise at this time. So this is definitely a rather challenging transit. What I'm getting to, by the way, by pointing out certain aspects and transits of the prince, is that I believe his destiny might be fulfilled fairly soon, within the next couple of years, with regards to resolving his mother's murder. Other transits he's having: Saturn sextile Saturn. This is really good, because while he's going through that very confusing time in mid-February, he's going to be getting a very stabilizing transit. He quietly restructures his life to reflect his values without other people noticing. I say that because it's Saturn in the 12th house, so what happens there is hidden. So that's certainly a lucky thing to have happening when he's getting this very confusing transit finishing up. Jupiter, currently at 23 degrees of Virgo, will soon be entering his 10th house. Expansion of the public role will increase when Jupiter enters his 10th house in late August of 2016. This will be just in time for the September meltdown. That's a phrase I'm coining about the last Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which will be occurring right around 9/11. Actually, it happens exactly on the 10th, but it's the anniversary of 9/11. And that day is going to be a day to really remember. And that's why I'm coining this phrase, September meltdown, something I'm going to be using a lot in future videos. Also notice what's coming up for this kid. Saturn conjunct Neptune. It's going to be happening in 2017. So after all of this stuff happens in 2016 and he quietly restructures his life, he's going to go through a really interesting time. This is going to be a real time of testing for him. When Saturn conjuncts his Neptune and quincunxes this Venus Chiron conjunction, this will bring up the issue of his mother's death, possibly revelations at this time. After that, Saturn conjuncts his ascendant in the same year, starting in March of 2017. And when Saturn conjuncts his ascendant, he's likely to come into his authority. Coronation likely in 2017. So that is clearly going to be a big year for him. When Saturn conjuncts his Neptune and quincunxes these 2 points here. I wanted to bring your attention to an article I came across on the internet. It's about the Queen. The Queen's 2015 Christmas bombshell message, rumored to have said, "Enjoy your final Christmas." I'm going to leave a link to this article in the description, but it gives you a little inside scoop about what's really going on with this lady who is the authority figure in his life and very much represents that Saturn in the 10th house, even more than his father. She's talking about Princess Diana. And she's been heard saying things like she knew too much. And the royal family simply did what was necessary to ensure their own survival. That's because Princess Diana was going to reveal a lot of the dark secrets of this family. And that's why they had her murdered. She's rumored to have said, "I hope you enjoy your final Christmas," bitterly, before staff said cut and retook that, because that obviously wasn't something they could allow out. But this is just an interesting article. It gives you an idea of what's really going on there. I believe that Prince William knows the truth about what happened to his mother. And when Saturn conjuncts his Neptune and quincunxes his Venus and Chiron in 2017, he's going to confront them. He's eventually going to expose them. And this is going to be a really interesting thing because he's going to be, in a way, fulfilling his destiny as a savior. So, there you have it. Prince William, a person with an incredibly powerful chart and an incredibly powerful destiny. Please leave comments, and thank you for watching.